Go. Welcome back to the On Right podcast. You have Elijah here alongside Grant. We have another episode. We're going to be kind of football heavy as we're in the midst of football season. Be football heavy. We're going to kick it off with Big 10 football and, kind of just a state of what we're witnessing here. A lot of good teams, a lot of good football over the next upcoming weeks as far as top 10 teams going head to head in multiple weeks, different combinations of really teams from the same division, and that's the Big 10 East division. And I'm going to kind of kick it off to Grant here. Just kind of want to get your thoughts on what we're witnessing and what you expect to come up over the next couple of weeks here.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think I personally I feel like this is kind of like where the actual season starts. Obviously Ohio State had a pretty big test. Penn State had a strong test. That week, like 4 to 5 and up is kind of like where things really start to like get rolling. Usually a lot of teams have kind of like, weaker schedule and they play like non-conference, whatever that might look like. But yeah, we already know the Big 10 champion going to come out of the East. It's just kind of crazy to see this many teams within the top 10 to 11. I think that, it's going to be a real test. And we're big Michigan guys. And, I know we haven't been like super excited because we've kind of seen, this story kind of happened before. And just watched how State is kind of, almost pretty much dominated that rivalry in some sense over the last like 5 to 6 years. It's been, I think it might be tied for the last like 6 years, something along those lines. But yeah, it's gonna be some really good football. It's gonna be real interesting to see how Penn State bounces back, or how they look, getting their QB back. Ohio State, they're starting to kind of hit their stride already. They kind of stumbled out the gate and they lost to a top 10 team second week of the season. But yeah, they're starting to get, the offense is really starting to get rolling. So it's, trying to think of who I think might come out of that side. It's easy to say Ohio, but I don't think they're as good as some other years, as good as they've been some other years. So, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. And second, that the winner of the Big 10 is going to come out of the Big 10 East to some facet. I think, that is so heavily loaded to that side. And in particular, it's usually loaded with Ohio State, Michigan State, and which are all, kind of the old school Big 10 teams, kind of, old school Big 10 teams. And so I see why they wanted to keep us all together and have those rivalries, kind of be the fuel of our conference. But at the end of the day, you're kind of picking each other off when you always have this situation happening. I'm sitting there looking at a screenshot here, and from the 30th of October until Michigan plays Ohio State, it's every week between Penn State, Ohio State, Michigan, and Michigan State. One of those two teams are playing each other. And so when you think that you're going to go through that gauntlet over the back half of this month and heading into late November, it's just going to be really tough for even if you are a good team, to make it through there. Ohio State already has one loss, and they have to play Michigan State and Michigan still. And so that's two tough tasks for them. And, Michigan has to play all three still, and Penn State has to play all three, and so does Michigan State. So it's going to be very interesting. But, I kind of agree with you. I think with Ohio State having that young quarterback, we are this could be an interesting time for him to go through all of that and have to go play, more than likely, I would say, Iowa coming out of the other side. So It will be it's going to be tough for any of those teams to make it through. And Ohio State already has one loss, so that'd be interesting to see how, that all plays out with trying to get into the college football playoff.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on the other side? Obviously, the big topic has been, over the last few years, is just like, you got all these teams on the East kind of beating down each other. They're probably all ranked in the top 25 or at least a good part of the year every year. And then kind of got, the East where the team, Wisconsin might stumble out of there at like 7-5 or like, 8-4. Iowa will show up, once every 4 or 5 years. I mean, that's really it. I can't tell you. I mean, I think Nebraska snuck in there a few years back when they first kind of got into the Big Ten. Northwestern jumped in there a couple of different times, but it's really, it's really a toss-up any given season. So what do you think about that side?
Yeah, I think this year I do think Iowa's a pretty solid team. You know, obviously they just lost to a team they probably had no business losing to last week. I think that was, but I think they're going to ultimately probably come out of that side, and I think maybe the kind of the people who formed the conference alignment or the division alignment, I should say, I think they probably thought they would help one of the other teams flourish. You know, maybe Nebraska would pick it up, or Wisconsin would pick it up, or somebody like that would be very consistent.
Yeah.
And instead of just getting that runoff, very good team that can come out of there. Yep. So I think I think that's had to be their thought process is let's keep the rivalries going on one side and let's help one of these other teams, crack into, a taste of victory all the time and maybe get a good pipeline going and kind of change the trajectory of one of those teams. But that's not working out that way. And ultimately you're just costing yourself more teams at a shot into the playoffs, and robbing good teams out of opportunities of making it in.
Yeah. I mean, you look at how like the SEC. I mean, how they got it. I mean, you got, if I'm not mistaken, Bama and LSU on one side. You got Florida and Georgia on another side. I'm not gonna be able to rattle off, who all is what. I mean, that's like probably the four best teams in that conference alone, and they each got to see each other their own side, but like it ain't as detrimental as it is for like they're not going through it's a crazy gauntlet of like they're not all in one side where it's like the fourth best team in that conference could probably be the first best team in the other conference.
I'll be safe to say any of the teams I named, Penn State, Ohio State, Michigan State, would probably walk the table on the other side, other division, other side, and easily get a shot at Indy.
Yeah.
And instead, 2 or 3 of those teams are going to be at home, and why they're another team from the other side that they're better than will be representing. So it's kind of that's just not fair, and it's not spurring the competition that you'd think you would see. So
yeah, I think you should do North and South. I mean, you could do like Michigan State, Wisconsin, Minnesota, Rutgers, Maryland, maybe like the the Illinois schools, maybe like one of the Indiana schools or something, and then South would just be Iowa, Nebraska. I think Northwestern is more South. I'm not totally sure. It's just literally like Ohio State, Penn State. I don't know, definitely can make it. It gotta be just strictly city.
Maryland.
Yeah. I feel like that off alone is kind of like rattling that off. I mean, that just seems a little bit more.
Sounds more alone.
Yeah, I mean, it seems a little bit better. You know what I mean? I think like, but they like how it is right now is just like you just got like the East. I mean, it's big. It's still the Big 10, but it's just like so pedestrian, like compared to the other sides. They just got to try to shake it up a little bit. This is just to get them 2 teams in the playoff. Like right now, they'll never get 2 teams in the playoff. Right. Getting 2 teams in the playoff, all that would do is bring more money to the Big 10. So like you would think they try to work. Maybe they are working on something, especially with like a lot of that expansion stuff coming up in the next like 3 or 4 years, most likely.
Yeah, no, I mean I know we talked about that briefly a few, I don't know, probably a month, 6 podcasts ago or so. But the Big 10 expanded. I do think that has to come. I do think that's the next evolutionary step. You can't just let other conferences gobble up that space, that recruiting area. That I mean, lots of stuff comes when bigger conferences are coming through and taking territories that you could easily also have. I think and then I view it because I am Big 10 heavy, and I think that I want to root for kids that are locally, whether that's Michigan kids, whether that's just Midwest kids in general. I do think regionally it helps us to try to fight for positioning, and it also helps us to realign this so that you are getting more teams at a shot in the playoffs where you're nationally recognized.
Is basketball? They don't have basketball like split up. It's not split up by different sides, is it?
No, I'm pretty sure it's not. Yeah, I think you just play everybody. like
Yeah,
round robin type.
I didn't know if that was something that I didn't know if like the ACC or like the SEC had something like that. But I don't know. I wasn't totally sure on that. But yeah, no, I think well, yeah, we'll see in due time. I mean, like I said, I feel like if they want to just be able to give teams a shot, it's going to be some great football over these next 4 or 5 weeks. I know that.
I agree.
So
I agree, and I know we'll dive in more heavy
yep.
versus some of the teams next week as we're approaching some of the games, including Michigan State, which is on Halloween Eve, in East Lansing. So, that's going to be an epic game. So we're going to get more depth into those in upcoming weeks.